Trident Limited, a subsidiary of First Quantum Minerals Limited.
Well, it's Sunday, the 8th of September in the year 2024. Thank you so much for making time to join us for Sunday's edition of COSTA. I'm your host. My name is Andrew Mwansa, sitting in for COSTA Mwansa. Zambia is currently experiencing one of its worst dry seasons, leading to significant crop losses, increased livestock deaths, and worsening poverty levels. Over 9 million people in 84 of the country's 117 districts have been affected. The El Niño-induced drought has also severely impacted the energy sector, leaving Zambians with only 3 hours of power daily. Additionally, the cost of living is rising, the price of goods and services sharply increasing on a daily basis. Now, this has raised concerns among Zambians about the ability of the New Dawn government to address these economic challenges. Simuwe is UPND Consultant. He joins me on tonight's edition of COSTA to discuss the UPND's commitment to addressing the current economic challenges. You too could be part of the program later on by calling us on the number that is going to be available on the screen. Mr. Simuwe, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on COSTA tonight for the first time on COSTA.
Thank you very much, Mwansa, and it's a pleasure to be on Diamond TV and COSTA to be particular.
The biggest problem the Zambians are currently experiencing now is the load shedding. Now, Zambians only have 3 hours of power daily. I think the biggest question tonight is, what is the problem? How have we found ourselves in this situation as a country?
Thank you very much, Mwansa. Well, I think we need to put matters into context by indicating that a drought is never a secret. It starts first of all by affecting a farmer. If you want to unearth or unpack a drought in a manner that is visible for everyone to see, you must first of all listen to a farmer. In some respect, some people would conclude perhaps this drought is something that would want to use as a scapegoat. I've heard such kind of conversations. But it should be made very clear that if we are pretending that the drought has not created such a huge problem, then we should all agree, Mwansa, we should all agree that we are pretending that farmers were badly hit. We should call it pretense. That is the starting point. Secondly, if we believe that it is pretense to talk about a drought, there could be other things that may have created this problem. They should also agree that Parliament was lying to the people of Zambia to have adjusted the budget when even the opposition themselves, who have a different view, asked on the floor of Parliament, asking cabinet ministers to provide the answer or the framework on what preparatory activities government has put in place to address the looming hunger arising from the drought. That was the question from the opposition, who would like to know what measures government is putting in place given the millions of citizens that will be affected as a result of this drought. Government responded practically by indicating, first of all, statistically, that over 6 million people are going to be affected. And as a result of that drought, the entire parliament, which involved the opposition, unanimously agreed to alter the budget for 2024 so that it is responsive to the effects of the drought. All of them agreed. We must alter it. And what have we seen? Because you have no control of the drought under the circumstances, we can only make reference to what caused the drought. You can talk about climate change. You can talk about all those things. But then you have no control of it when it has taken place. In other words, it's water under the bridge. So when that has happened, what you only bring in are mitigation measures, not preventive measures. Remember that even those that do crisis management as a course, when you talk about mitigation measures only come when a particular activity has already taken place. Okay? Whereas intervention measures come in place when an activity is in the process. Preventive measures come into effect before the activity takes place. So we are now at the level not of prevention only from the point of view of the drought, but mitigation measures. In other words, we are looking at the aftermath of the drought and how is government responding. Government has responded by first of all acknowledging the fact that we have to look for food. How has it done it? About 650,000 bags of maize is what we needed in the first place to quickly begin to respond under the office of the Vice President, DMMU to be particular, to start taking food supply to the people in the most affected areas. Now, someone raised a concern and said, which areas are being targeted? Is it only those that had the drought? It is almost the whole country, because what happens is that when there are few people that are produced in the north, in Luapula and Muchinga, it means the country will have to scramble for the little they have produced, meaning the crisis is big. I want people to understand that.
Just before you proceed, you mentioned something very important, that government did acknowledge the fact that we're hit by the drought, and one of the things that we must do is realign the 2024 budget, which the Minister of Finance did. But I think it was quite shocking that if you look at the figures in the realigned budget, not much is going towards addressing the issue of load shedding. Much of the budget, has gone towards dismantling of arrears in fuel. In fact, a huge portion of it has gone into dismantling, of fuel arrears, and some, into social cash transfer. I think the big question is, the reason for why we realigned this budget was for us, partially to be able to address this load shedding issue, but the budget doesn't speak to that.
No, I'll deal with the issues of load shedding. And what is it that we are talking about when you're talking about issues relating to load shedding? Okay, so let me nail it by also mentioning that after you've unanimously agreed that this has to go to food supply as the first instance, we deal with it's load shedding. I mean, the drought has brought about a holistic challenge to the country. Now, what I want us to draw also is the relationship between the drought and the increase in the prices of commodities, the relationship between the drought and the increase in the cost of living in terms of basic necessities, the relationship. Where are the two joining each other? Herein lies the answer. When the supply of food is low by the farmer, the price of the type of food that is supposed to be supplied will go up. Now, is it only the price of mealie meal? No. Market forces will detect. In other words, an adjustment in a particular area will cause adjustments in various prices of commodities. It is then not only the drought. There could also be fuel price on the world market. There could also be the performance of the currency. So you have all these things put together. Now, when they merge in the manner that they have merged, this is the trickle-down effect that we see. But on the issue of the drought, here is the budget. We are focused more on dealing with issues relating to food security. Apart from that, what is government doing now on the side of load shedding? What measures have been taken into consideration? In the first place, before we get to deal with what government has put in place, which the president partially dealt with in China and within the country, here is the situation. You may wish to know, Mwanza, that first of all, ZESCO has been in a state of financial shock because of indebtedness. It's a company, it is also a business. Just Kafue hydropower station here, what ZESCO owed led to debt restructuring, over $3 billion. We're talking about owing, not money paid by ZESCO. Money ZESCO is owing. You go to the other side, you are dealing with power here. It's a power issue you are dealing with. Power versus the institution, which is the utility company. Secondly, what about Mamba Collieries? We were told by the Minister of Finance, 500 million US dollars owed to Mamba Collieries. Which other? A power utility company in Mozambique, about $1 million US. Which other? There was a docking vessel with some kinetic energy, which could have been a solution. The minister was being informed that if you want to bring in ZESCO, ZESCO owes us money. In other words, we've identified ZESCO malaise, disease, that one, it is debt choked. Now, for a company to perform and invest in other areas, it must have liquidity, it must have the money. Now, you are basically dealing with the type of alternatives that ZESCO may not manage. So, government, through your president, had to find a way around it. We have identified the problem. We elected you to run the country. What is your solution? Now, get there. Now, before I get there, let me also be quick to mention, my brother, that amid all these things that we are talking about, the biggest project for ZESCO only kick-started within 2 years ago, which is tied to its debt. And that's the Kafue Lower Hydropower Station, which commenced under the previous government. It is told money got finished. Your government, under the UPND leadership, looked for money and bought 4 turbines, each turbine producing 150 megawatts, in total 600 megawatts. But that is a generator that thrives on water. We have agreed that if a farmer is saying there was no water, then a generator of power is also saying there was no water. The one who produces power using water, he's also saying there was no water. It therefore goes that if the generator of electricity says there is no water, and then we say he's lying, we should as well agree that a farmer is lying. After we have agreed and reconciled the two, then we should go back and say, if a farmer is not lying, then a generator of power who uses water is not lying. Then let us agree there is a problem. Then where are we finding the solution? You asked a very important question, but I'm getting there. First of all, we need to confront policy issues. You cannot use an institution, even in a crisis, before you look at laws that establish it and the manner in which it must conduct its businesses. And in this case, we're talking about ZESCO. You may wish to know that for a very long time, ZESCO has been a monopoly. And the available legislation, including the policies, could not allow citizens to generate power and be able to supply and sell to the neighborhood. So the starting point was to change certain policy frameworks, and that's what government has done. No wonder you are hearing of your president saying citizens can now produce, those that have the capacity, even 100 kVA and supply to the country or government the 70 kVA into the national grid and earn a living from there. That's the starting point. You change policies so that they are aligned to respond to the challenges. Secondly, understanding the challenges that ZESCO has, that it can hardly invest anything. How do we prove that? Let us prove it this way. We're coming from the former finance minister who told us that about 50% out of what ZESCO makes go to salaries and remuneration. It's highly indebted. Then secondly, even the government as a whole, out of 100% of what is collected as revenue, 50% at that time before suspension of debt servicing going to salaries, 40% going, 50% was going to debt restructuring, debt payment, servicing, then 40% to government salaries, then the government was running on 10%. It was not sustainable as the justification to store. Yeah. Now, I'm getting now to some
time to identify, all these problems that are surrounding our energy sector. I think my question is, what are you doing, really?
Yeah, it was very important for me to strike the background so that the time we're getting to what is being done, people will understand first of all, this is the state of ZESCO. Okay? Now that this is the state of ZESCO, this is what government is doing. So now, in dealing with what government is doing, they've changed the issues of policy to allow for the players to participate in the generation of power. How has that worked? It has given us a test with the CEC in the first place in the private sector. Because now the policy shift allows the private sector to produce more. So now, that is the 60 megawatts you saw the president commissioning on the Copper Belt. Then what is 60 megawatts to my mother who is selling tomatoes? What does it translate into? For avoidance of doubt, I'll give you an example of Luapula. Luapula uses only about 15 megawatts. So then it is easy for us to understand the 60 megawatts. That we are not talking about the electricity that will only power one household. Now, with the emerging mines that are being reopened, they thrive on power. It means that the demand is also going up. So when the demand is going up, then we have now to make a decision. We have to bite the bullet and set priorities. I'm sure you heard protests when some small-scale miners were of the view that they were cut off from the supply in the central province. I'm sure you saw that protest that was mushrooming. That government should spare the jobs by not cutting off the supply. But then we are in a crisis. So number one, that has been done. Secondly, that particular policy shift has allowed for other players like Mamba Quarries to add to the existing 300 megawatts, another 300 megawatts. I'll translate it into another 300 megawatts. How is it being added? There was a groundbreaking ceremony there. Commissioning, there was a groundbreaking ceremony, setting up 300 megawatts. It has to come. Adding to the 60 megawatts. What else?
These are long-term projects you're talking about.
But it's moving forward as a country. That remains the only solution, my brother.
In the short term?
Because now I'm coming. In the short term, you heard from the chief government spokesperson announcing how much we have tried to import also from the neighboring countries like Namibia. Okay? Namibia, part of Namibia, of course, is a desert. For our colleagues that do have more desert areas, there's been a deliberate policy to invest in alternative sources of energy.
What is changing?
Now,
what is changing really, Mr. Simuwe? You mentioned all these projects that government is undertaking, but the reality on the ground is that people are having no power. Some actually have consistently have no power for 48 hours.
Yes. So you asked a question, okay? That those are long-term projects, meaning you agree with me. So what is going to change is that even when you plant a seed, you not get the fruits immediately, but it brings a solution. You asked me, what's the short term? Short term is importation. What example am I giving? I'm giving you an example of Namibia. We have imported. But how much is it curing? For example, if we get 120 megawatts, what is our deficit? Our deficit has been announced as around 800 megawatts. Do we have any equipment that is producing that power? No, we don't have. How much do we need at peak hour as a country? We need about 1,700 megawatts. Now, with the deficit that is moving now from 800 to close to 1,000, what does it leave us with? Which country will give us? Because if you go to Zimbabwe, they will tell you we are hit. You go to South Africa, they are in a road shedding. You are hit. So we will exhaust the Southern African countries, which in any case, one of them is confronted with this problem, they would supply. Okay? Meaning you are left mostly with kinetic energy, which obviously is an option. But then, while you are dealing with short-term measures, all countries around the globe will not continuously supply power to you. You must find a solution. And these are the home-based grown solutions we're talking about. So now, where are we going in terms of the immediate solutions? Your president signed through ZESCO management, ZESCO signing with the Chinese power utility, 3 category responsive measures, which are partly long-term and short-term. What are the short-term in China? Setting up solar panels on the rooftops of households. We have seen it happen in Botswana, where we understand that citizens may not have the capacity to buy the panels. They may not have the capacity to buy the big lithium batteries. Government may find an alternative, and through partnership with a Chinese utility company, as the case may be, which story you ran on your news, that it is signed. That's an immediate solution. What are you going to get? The immediate solution that your president has managed to secure through ZESCO and their counterpart in China, a power utility there.
What is different with this deal? Mr. Simuwe, it's not the first time that we're seeing the president sign progressive, MOUs. Just last year on the 17th of January, we did see President Hakainde Hichilema, post on his page that he had clinched a deal with the United Arab Emirates state company called Mazda for a $2 billion, investment in the renewable energy to generate about, power amounting to over, about 2,000, megawatts, and this hasn't materialized. And this is not the only deal. A number of deals that the president has signed, but we're seeing nothing.
No, you are being economic with the truth. Okay, when deals are made, the next stage that you see is a feasibility study.
Has a feasibility study been done for that Chinese?
I have now to check whether they have concluded. Okay, it's a feasibility study. We will sign, but what comes first is the feasibility study. They'll conduct a feasibility study, then they'll move on site. Because there is no project. For those that will do project management, they do understand. Every time you're undertaking a project, one of the things among the other issues you need to undertake is needs assessment.
But why do you want to excite the Zambians with the trip that the president took to China?
No, because you said that.
And you seem to be, be painting a picture that this issue of load shedding now is going to be tackled.
Now, this is where I'm getting to. You are saying you signed a number of deals. What deals have been signed which have not gone through? So many deals have gone through, my brother. Remember that this deal that he's signing, part of it is being extracted from the communique between President Xi Jinping and HH. Let me demonstrate to you. One of the things that were in the communique.
Before you demonstrate, where is the $2 billion deal that we signed?
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to just demonstrate to you, that the feasibility study. Afterwards, what happens is they have to come in. And even the other deals that you are seeing being commissioned, they started with feasibility studies. And then government has to approve. There are all these processes that come in. Then the next point that I want to deal with is that the communique between President HH and President Xi Jinping is what is materializing now. Okay, let me demonstrate. They are now commencing, they have now signed the MOU to now commence rehabilitation of Tazara Zambia Railways. When did it start? It started as a communique. What has happened now is an MOU. Secondly, for member corridors to agree to supply ZESCO, it was an MOU between your president and member corridors. MOU refused in the first place to partner with ZESCO because member corridors was owed money. It has materialized. CEC was exporting power to DRC. They were selling there. It took an MOU for them to accept to supply ZESCO and sell in the national grid. It had materialized and it was commissioned. Perhaps the question should be, when these things are being done, when are we going to say bye-bye to load shedding? It is not a process that takes place the same day, where you simply go and switch on. I'm just giving you an example of setting up solar panels on the rooftops. This is news to Zambians. It's alien. Now, I'm giving you an example that in Botswana, because our colleagues have much of it the desert. Of course, the population is small, because in Botswana, to run the whole Botswana, you only need 500 megawatts. Okay? They are planting these solar panels because the argument is that citizens have no money to purchase those things. Only those that have the money will purchase them. That is very true. And in responding, what should government do? Government should simply replace the connection they had with solar. They put it on your household, then they connect. You have the same power, but then even the charge comes in the same manner that you are being charged by power that was coming from the hydropower station. What they've just changed is the source of power. But who is paying the bills to set up the machine? It's not yourselves. Government comes to put it. That is a deal they've signed. The next thing that I want...
When do we see this materializing?
Very soon, because it was signed just 3-4 days ago. Obviously, many international treaties have been signed. When they are signed, you don't expect people to just turn on immediately. Okay?
When do we expect this?
Obviously, within some space. It is a matter that, according to the president, which should be done as was yesterday. Okay? So we should be expecting an official position from government. I don't want to let the cat out of the sack by announcing a date until an official position is given. But the fact that it was already signed, it's a deal. It can even start tomorrow. But I would want us to move together with my colleagues by not announcing a date until it is communicated to the people of Zambia that we are commencing.
How will this exactly work? Are you going to install, is government going to install for free, to these households that are...
Yeah, I want to re-emphasize that the same way government supplies power to your house, they drop it like that, okay? Through ZESCO. That power which is generated by use of water. The difference this time is that acknowledging that citizens may not have the money to purchase the solar panels and everything. The difference is that through the partnership government has, through ZESCO has with the power utility company in China, they are going to set up these solar panels on top of rooftops. Okay? And then citizens now can come in by way, because you need servicing. You need to service. You can't get all those things for free. In the first place, there's no country that you're going to find providing those facilities for free. In the same manner that you have been getting ZESCO power by paying a certain amount. Obviously, this comes at a cost where citizens have to pay something for them to continue with their daily chores. And the president also acknowledges the fact that this load shedding has adversely affected the SMEs.
I was about to come to that.
Yeah.
What is the plan, really? We just ran a story on our news yesterday, of about 25 people that work for a bakery, have been rendered jobless because of the fact that now we have to wait for, we don't know when power is going to come. Some areas, like I mentioned earlier on in Simuwe, are not even having power for 48 hours. And it's not only the bakery industry that has been affected. The welding industry has been affected. The people that run barbershops in markets, there's economic inactivity in the country. You speak of the mines also that need power. I was in Northwestern Province and I was speaking to one of the managers at the mines, and they told me that they're they're importing very expensive power, and this is leading to them having a huge cost in running the mine. How do we expect to grow as a country with this power deficit?
Now, I'll deal with this. Let me conclude on one very key issue. I've talked about one. What are the solutions? It's important that citizens get them. Number one, you saw it in the press. Diamond TV ran a story as well on the president dealing with the issues of solar panels. That is the immediate solution. The second one is in phases. 100 megawatts. 100 megawatts to be set up at Kariba North Bank, a plant using solar, not water anymore. Okay? Of course, the water equipment will be there at the right time, as and when there's water, obviously to kick on. Secondly, at the Kafue Lower Gorge, another 100, which brings the number to 200 megawatts. Now, those are long-term measures.
These are plans. These are plans.
So they are not just plans on paper. They have been signed to be actualized. It is not like coming up with a plan where it's a wish list. No. Okay? It is signing to implement. Remember that everything starts with a policy framework, just like the national budget. Before you recruit teachers, you must tell people that part of what you have included in the budget is the recruitment of teachers. So you cannot dismiss the budget on the basis that you have not yet recruited. Okay? So now, similarly, this is what we are talking about. It's like you sit home, you want to go to the market. You definitely write a list of items you intend to buy based on the amount of money that you have. You are not going to dismiss the list only for the fact that you have not yet bought. You will go with the list until you've bought the things, you come back. Then you can analyze. So under the circumstances, we are saying, in addition to that, the other thing that is being undertaken, which will help us, is the idea that we are going to have the issue of supply, generation, procurement, and setting up the entire equipment. That's an agreement between ZESCO and the power utility of China to be actualized on the Kariba Dam and Kafue hydropower station. But then those are long-term projects. I mentioned that what the president is from doing is partly short-term and long-term. Long-term with the equipment that will be set up at Kariba, with the equipment that will be set up in Kafue. Short-term responsively with what will be set up on the rooftops. But all these things don't come overnight. We shall go through this pain, but we should be ready to bite the bullet. It is a passing phase. It is not something that will come permanently. The problems that we are identifying are problems that your president has conceded in the first place. In his acceptance and announcement of this MOU, one of the things that he's raising is one, he's aware of how many SMEs have been adversely affected, including those that have been empowered under SMEs and CEEC. Some of them are producing plastics, of course, which can be recycled, or those that are biodegradable.
Would you
But they are affected because they need power. Those who are running businesses of nails, they are affected because they need power. It is acknowledged.
What's the plan? What's in it for them?
So what is there for them is that these are the responses that government is undertaking.
You speak of long-term projects. What businesses are dying, Mr. Simuwe. I don't know if you're in touch with reality.
No.
Businesses are dying.
Perhaps the question is, what is short term? Short term is not plug and play. It's a process. If you are going to import, I'll give an example.
The rooftop power plants are part of the short term for these markets.
Of course, if you are going to import power from Zimbabwe, they will tell you we have a deficit. In essence, maybe 1 or 2 countries in Southern Africa is willing to sacrifice the power because they're facing the same problem. I was in SA. They are facing problems all over. Businesses are dying there. Shops have closed. Go to Nigeria, it's the same. It's a crisis. Shops are closing. They are affected. But I was actually following africanews.com in Nigeria. A huge crisis where the demand is high.
So for now, we must just watch and wait for the time.
There is no watching. This is why we are explaining what government is doing. When we talk about 100 megawatts, we're talking about statistics.
You seem to be comforted by South Africa, the story in Nigeria. What is the plan?
It is not the comfort. What we are trying to also do is to make people understand that this is not unique to this country simply because you believe that those that wield the instruments of power are doing nothing about it. We are saying...
But this is against what you said when you were in opposition.
We are saying...
In fact, you mentioned that when we come into office, ours won't be looking at problems as being global. We'll face problems here.
I'll give you an example. In fact, that time when we were dealing with the issue, the time when we were dealing with load shedding there, we were not dealing with the worst scenario that we have today. It's the first time that we're experiencing such a worst case of a drought.
But there's presence of leadership, unless you're telling us that the reason why we're in this place is because of lack of leadership.
Mwanza, it's good that you're taking me back so that I emphasize more. It is the leadership that has made your president respond with these measures that I've given you. Then they will just tell you that go and urinate in the Kariba Dam. There were no solutions. There's a huge difference there. There is a huge difference in because I'm able to sit here and explain to you that right now we are able to boast of, within locally produced, we are able to boast of over 500 megawatts of power produced from within. Now, the question that you're asking is that those statistics you are giving, they are benefiting who? That should be the question. You need also to understand that the minds that were sleeping are awake.
They will need power.
I'm coming from the Copper Belt. I'm coming from Northwestern Province. You know that I've just arrived. The mines are running.
And these
I'm coming. When they talk about the cost, is that even the mines are being rationed. For someone out there to have even in the 3 hours, even if Zesco makes much of its money from huge companies and not domestic consumers. Okay? So, the difference lies in here, that you have a government that is responding. We have imported some. The situation is worsening as government is now shutting down some machinery or generators elsewhere to save them. The reason is simple. It's because for many years we invested wrongly in the generation of power. Even our friends who claim they had an idea of the climate change went and borrowed over 3 billion. Can you imagine if over $3 billion was invested in solar power? If they are told they had a clue of the climate, we could have had...
I acknowledge that the climate change is real.
We could have been talking about something else.
Are you acknowledging that climate change is real?
There is a Rio convention to which Zambia is a signatory on climate change. A number of challenges were identified, activities that trigger climate change, which has been identified as a human action, have been identified, and Zambia is a signatory. And then a resolution, a position paper has been made on what those that are emitting gases that are in a way to the detriment of the ozone layer, more than many others, should pay. And the quantity they should produce, and even those developing countries which are emitting dangerous fumes, how much they can produce. This is why we have been talking about carbon trading or carbon credit. The whole world is talking about afforestation. Countries have demonstrated, like China, where thousands and millions of trees are being planted.
I think the reason why I'm asking whether you're acknowledging climate change is because you seem to have paid a blind eye to issues around climate change. When the PF announced that, the drought, bring about the hunger situation in the country, the drought, will bring about load shedding in the country. You didn't seem to acknowledge, these things, and you made reference to it that this is lack of proper leadership. Let me remind you of something that the president mentioned while it's in opposition. This was posted on his Facebook page on the 26th of September 2020. He says, in the midst of serious economic challenges, a power deficit and a serious hunger situation, there's no way I would be traveling out as president. I would stay on the ground to provide leadership. Our people deserve better. Do you think really some of these things that were mentioned by the president while it's in opposition, are biting you, the UPND, because they seem to be speaking against what he's doing now?
Now here's the difference. He would travel to bring nothing.
Are you able to give me a specific trip that he traveled and brought?
Now I'll give you an example. He went to USA with the musicians. They were dancing and playing in water. What did they bring? We would want to be guided. He chartered the plane, getting people, starting with the person who holds the broom. There was nothing that came out of that, and they can't boast of anything. You can have something. Here is the difference in leadership. Here is the first trip from your head of state. He goes into China, and as he's going to China, debt has been restructured. They left over $6 billion. It has been restructured. It's a successful story. You cannot even compare what has been spent for him to get there to what you've gained as a country. That's number one. Secondly, he goes and signs a communique with President Xi Jinping and secures an agreement to relax visa conditions. And now statistics are showing that tourism, the number of tourists coming into the country has increased. Go to the hospitality industry. The people are flocking there. Go to the international airport. It's paying off. Where is it drawing it from? Understandably, China has a population of 1.4 billion people. He knows very well that by relaxing visa conditions, even 5% of the Chinese population will transform this country in terms of forex. The records are showing the hospitality industry is waking up. I was talking to a hotel person at Protea Hotel in Chingola today, and I came to Ndola. I passed through, is it Golden Blue? I was having a meal there. I talked to them, how is the business? I said, no, we are getting full now. I have a visitor in Osaka who came from the Copper Belt. I went to Grand Palace Hotel. It is full. There's no space. We had to look for somewhere else. They said, wow, this is good. They also said, yes, this is good. That's what we were looking for.
The story for the majority of our people.
I told him that now, I'm happy that you acknowledge that, but that's the story you should tell. I found a Mr. Sampa at Golden Blue. He could be watching this. He promised he's going to watch. A very good man there. He told me, now we are happy. We have an influx of people coming to visit. They are visiting Copper Belt because the mines have reopened. That is the reference that is being made. Garden Court Hotel, it's almost unprecedented. You find it full. There's no space. People are scrambling for lodges in Kitwe because each one from Lusaka wants to go and look for a business in the mines that have opened. Those are economic activities. They are leaving money in these hotels and lodges, which money is being used to pay our brothers and sisters that are working for the lodges. The next point that I want to bring out is that
just hold your thought.
Here's another trip.
Just hold your thought, Mr. Simuwe. We have a caller, Andrew. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Andrew Mpiankula. Hello, good evening. Right, we seem to be having a technical challenge in, connecting with our caller. But you were explaining something.
You could pick the question. If you're able to get through the ear, then you bring it so that we answer.
Andrew, are you able to hear me? All right, please, let's proceed.
Yeah, so that is the first trip I'm talking about. Secondly, the trip has brought the rehabilitation of Tazara Zambia. That is progressive for our country. People lost jobs at Tazara. You are aware that when the UPND came into leadership, there were people who were owed money at Tazara, which people, some of them have been paid, but under the UPND administration. Now, the rehabilitation of Tazara Zambia Railways opens up this country to the sea for whatever we are producing. That's what it means. Okay? Even the people that deliberately clinched a deal, Tanzania and Zambia, many, many years ago, had that in mind. But we had, obviously, it was run down. Most of those wagons were almost obsolete. So it is a dream that is being revived. Then secondly, you are also aware that it is the trip to Abu Dhabi which is paying off. We are talking about the statement that you read on the president's page, which has secured an investment in Mopani of over 1.3 billion. And as we speak today, the same Mopani has paid the council in Kitwe 87 million, which money has been used by the local authorities to clear the retirees that retired many years ago. That is the benefit of your president's trip to that area. The next point, you are aware, out of that engagement process, we've managed to engage most of these mines by coming up with a policy framework that allows them to invest more. We are now talking about the expansion of nickel mine in Kalumbila by pumping in over 1.3 billion, the expansion of Rumwana mine by pumping in $2 billion US. That will translate into creating more jobs, because in a mining sector, once you expand the mine, it means you have to employ more people. That's what it means. As we are speaking today, the number of people that have been employed in mining already stands at over 9,000. It's a good record. It's not a bad record, because over 9,000 citizens on the Copper Belt lost jobs as a result of liquidation and running down of Mopani. Those are success records. What other success records are we talking about? He had an engagement with counterpart in Mozambique. What have we gotten in return? You saw the president of Mozambique making an offer of how they are helping us, even in the situation of the drought. Apart from that, you saw the various MOUs that they signed, including gas, because now we are consuming a lot of gas. Okay? That has brought something. Yeah. You talk about the UK, the Green Compact grant, over $1 billion US. That money, my brother, is through a visit. You talk about Italy, $98 million US. It is out of a visit. So now you can relate the increase in the trip to Angola made or led us to the resumption of flights between Angola and Zambia directly. And what does that mean? It helps those that are doing business with Angola. The trip into Mozambique, now there is a direct flight from Mozambique. All the signings and the agreements are being followed by action. From the trip, we saw there is a plane that is landing directly. How is it benefiting our national airports corporation? They are collecting landing fees, my brother. They are collecting money for each plane that lands there. Money is paid to your government. Meaning, those brothers and sisters that work for national airports can have an income on a monthly basis. That's the relationship. The other trip that we could be talking about is an issue of the direct flight from Botswana. What do we see? There is a direct flight between Gaborone and Lusaka. As we talk now, we have more than 14 flights landing. 14 flights. Airlines, perhaps, landing at Lusaka International Airport.
You've heard this, from the opposition 1,000 times, of accusing your party of not having an economic master plan, for this country. Perhaps maybe take us through, what the economic blueprint for the UPND looks like.
First of all, let me start with what you may consider to be basics, because it's easy for people to understand. We promised the idea of moving away from economic and administrative centralism to devolution. And today, as we speak, money that was stolen, which was being stolen, is being moved from the central government to the people through CDF. And as we are speaking today, over 1,000 classroom blocks have been erected. How is it an economic issue? What is the relationship? It's an economic issue because the people that are constructing this are Zambians, bricklayers. Where did we get them? We have a plan already, a framework. On one hand, we are talking about over 1,000 classroom blocks. On the other hand, understanding we may not have sufficient numbers of bricklayers. We are training citizens by constituency in skills training, in bricklaying, in carpentry, and also in metal fabrication. The over 10,000 desks across the country dotted is an economic issue. How is it an economic issue? They are being produced locally by Zambians, meaning they have an income that they never had. Let me talk about issues relating to, you're talking about economic master plan. Because when you talk about economic master plan, it is a multi-dimensional approach. That's why I'm scattering, because we cannot deal with everything at a go. That's why I'm picking certain pockets of basics. The next thing, which I'm going to deal with, are cooperatives. So far in 2 years, 2,800 cooperatives have been given grants. It's an economic issue. Because individuals that are running businesses must survive. Some of which stories are running on ZNBC, even by Diamond itself, people receiving market booster loans. It's an economic issue. Over 75,000 marketeers across the country in 2 years. It's an economic issue. They like it. Some of them will tell you have no income. They are now at the market selling tomatoes to feed their families. It's an economic issue. It came with a framework of one, empowering citizens. You cannot empower citizens without giving them knowledge. That's why we embarked on a deliberate plan to first of all give them the skills in various areas. Aquaculture, it is an economic issue. How is it an economic issue? The aquacultural activities that have been undertaken are providing jobs for those that are working there and producing fish. Let me get to another issue. Issues relating, my brother, to artisanal mines whose licenses were given 112 artisanal.
Do you think, just before you proceed with artisanal mines, do you think the issue of cooperatives wasn't really properly planned out by the UPND government? As so, if you go to Parkra, thousands of cooperatives, have registered across the country, with the aim to getting empowerment from government. But the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises will tell you that a very few of these cooperatives are now existing because the actual idea was for these people to come together, get money and go and share. And very few cooperatives are in existence now. And much more noise is not being made like it was being made in between 2021 and 2022 of people, forming cooperatives.
Now, let me tell you something. I'm just giving you statistics of beneficiaries, okay? So which means something has been done, and that is a successful story. In every government, when you are talking about achievements, it does not mean there will never be challenges. Challenges could be seen by those that may not have access to the facility. So then where are we coming from? Comparative analysis helps us understand where we are. That it is not that it is a failed project, it's a success project. How is it a success project? Look, for example, under CEEC, when UPND took over leadership in 2021, only 41 million, if you go back to your record, was allocated for empowerment, and only about 10 million was disbursed. You search on your internet there. UPND has taken it to over 360 million, meaning the number of beneficiaries has increased. Numbers don't lie. Meaning we have moved from the way we used to be. Let me talk about cooperatives. 2,800 cooperatives done fairly, because these things are being done by constituents, and in some cases by province. Meaning we're getting somewhere as a country. The next point that I want to bring about, market booster loans. A well-skilled matter with MPs supervising, even opposition members of parliament agreeing with us in supervising this CDF. We raise it on the floor of parliament. They are doing projects and they are supervising. And I've told citizens that are in doubt, when you go to your constituents, you find a school being painted. That is CDF. And when you check, you say, no, we are not seeing any activity. Those schools did not paint themselves. They are beneficiaries right from your constituents who are painting them. When you see desks, which are manufactured within, you should know that we could import desks. And they were only made by foreigners. Today we can make them. The next thing that is economic in nature, through policy framework, my brother Mwanza, in the mining sector, government pushed in the Minerals Commission. I'm sure you're aware of that. The Minerals Commission. What that has brought about is monitoring the mining activities. That's why we are able to know how much we make from a new investor in Mufurira, that within 3 months after taking over, they contribute over 250 million kwacha. Because it's now a proper monitoring mechanism. Then secondly, it's an economic issue. By way of putting in place a policy that secures the contractors in the mines. Today, as we are speaking, we have a policy in place that any contract for supplies in the mines, which is below 25 million, should be given to a Zambian. It's an economic issue. Those who are coming from the Copper Belt understand what I'm talking about. Because most of my friends, I found them, they are very busy. with the mines. Others, I'm happy they have clinched deals.
With,
they've managed with the
with all
mines.
these initiatives you've talked about that government is currently embarking on, but I think obviously not the majority of the Zambians are going to, for example, access empowerment fund that government is currently rolling out. But the things that the majority of our people are concerned about is how much they're buying a bag of meal, how much they're buying cooking oil at. What the farmers are concerned about is the fertilizer price, which has now doubled. Speak to those issues, Mr. Simuwe. What is really the plan? For example, when Zambians were told that the price of a bag of meal was very high, prior to the 2021 elections, and now it's even much more expensive. What are you telling Zambians in terms of are things going to stabilize? With these plans, you've mentioned a lot of plans in the long term. When do people expect the stabilization of this price?
I have not only discussed plans, I've discussed activities that have been fulfilled. Okay? Activities that have been actualized. That's what I'm dealing with. Now, let me go to, because any government cannot fulfill everything at a go. Okay? We have a checklist. Because we promised decentralization has been done. I was just talking about the ingredients which are found under CDF, the ingredients in the mining, how we are realigning the mining sector to bring it back to life the way it is today. It was dead. Okay? Now, we are talking about things that have taken place. We are not talking about plan. We are not at planning level. What is our plan now on the issue you have raised of mini meal? Understanding that there are market forces at play, and part of the market forces is one, the cost of agro inputs. What have we done? Government has taken an initiative which over time has to pay by ensuring that we start producing from within. But we should not first of all cut off the supply from abroad until we are sure that the supply can now meet the demand. As we are speaking to the $138 million fertilizer manufacturing plant station in Lusaka, which I said on this panel previously, not on this particular program, but a different program, that once at full capacity to produce 300 megawatts of urea, 300 metric tons of urea and 700 metric tons of decompound. And it is happening. That's why you find every farming season, there seem to be some people who are selling fertilizer cheaply. Others will sweep it and increase the price. It is normal in a free market like that. But until we are sure that we can now meet the demand, we close the imported ones, then we can regulate. We'll get there. Because the plan that we have is to meet the demand and now control the price locally. Because we know materials that will be required to produce fertilizer and the labor that will be needed and also the expenditure part of, and then we can now stabilize.
It's a long-term project?
It's both. Then secondly, because this has been actualized in terms of putting in place, the processes have started. Secondly, we are not going to cry over spilled milk, such as a drought. Because you have people that are thinking, the test of leadership is not that you're going to avoid all the problems. The test of leadership is in such a manner that problems will arise, but what will determine quality of leadership is how you're going to respond to the problems. So how are we responding to the issue of millennium? This is how we are responding. Instead of always talking about the drought and giving it as an excuse, government has already earmarked 17,000 farmers to empower them with irrigation equipment, and the process has started. That's number one. Two, in 2022, you go to the statistics online, government released 1 million kwacha to audit farm blocks across the country so that they could be run by ZNS. The process has started, and ZNS has even started harvesting winter maize. You go to FRI, you'll find the records there. Those journalists that are following the program can make a follow-up. They are collecting. They are collecting winter maize. ZNS is doing it. And you are aware that ZNS has further procured more pieces of land so that we can produce more under ZNS. Now, what that means is that ZNS can now recruit more Zambians to work there because it's expanding its working sphere. These are the people that now are going to be recruited who are Zambians to go and work in these areas. Because the Zambia National Service, by an act of parliament, was established specifically to deal with national service holistically, starting from agriculture, not only security, road network, building, engineering, and everything. By an act of parliament. That is how it is established. And now it has expanded. If you have seen, through a policy framework, they are now introducing millers, more milling plants. And here you heard they announced that they are setting up now milling plants, new milling plants. Now, understanding that there are available milling plants under ZNS may not meet the demand across the country. UPND has a group of experts who are able to reason and put in place a framework that is easy to monitor. We have undertaken, my brother, a deliberate decision to have ZNS partner with private milling companies so that ZNS through government can access maize from FRA and crush it to sell it at ZNS price.
Which is 250, which is unaffordable.
I'm coming. What are some of those companies? You have Mushe Milling, you have Chimusoro, you have Good Taste Milling, you have Central Milling, you have many others. Now, it is at 250. Now, Ajakai told another person, watch the space. I don't want to again let the cat out of the sack, but I want to assure you, government now is contemplating reducing the price of milling meal further. Only when we know that we have enough stock, which we can produce on our own. How are we doing it? Government is monitoring the winter maize that is being planted. Remember, 17,000 farmers have been earmarked and they are being given the facilities. Many people have applied. Some of them have seen, they've already put I have a friend, Kingsley. He was just telling me, my brother, I wanted to give it a try. I have 600 bags. I said, wow. How much are you selling it? No, the market price. I'm still negotiating with him. Then I said, this is happening. It started like a joke. Now, away from the 17,000 earmarked citizens as a way of responding to the drought situation and moving further in the future, we have now changed our approach to agriculture. This drought has taught Zambians a lesson. And Zambia government has responded by providing the remedy through irrigation. Understanding that not all the farmers will manage, government has brought in the facility. Again, on the other side, apart from this particular idea, government has introduced a credit facility, which they will again speak to this farming season. You remember there was about 34 million last year. And now, government has relaxed policies. Even the civil servants are welcome to get that particular facility.
What is your projection in terms of, some of these initiatives that have already begun running, materializing, and people, getting to benefit? I mean, the majority of the people.
The projection is that because we are not...
The idea is that, you've heard political experts speak that it is going to be political suicide for the UPND to go into an election with the current economic challenges because they stand no chance of winning the next election.
Before I politic, let me deal with the issues. Because I like the fact that you went straight to issues affecting the people. It would be nice for me to politic a bit later, but if you could allow me to deal with one issue. On the agendas, the messages that we promised the people of Zambia, I can give you a list, my brother. With my head raised high. That we promised you free education, it is there. No matter how often you're going to talk about it, don't get tired. Because the opposition will ignore it, they will not talk about it. It's not their job. It's us to remind citizens. If they believe that we were lying, because they said free education is not possible, where will they get the money from? It's done. We are giving grants to all the schools across the country, public schools, it's done. Examination fees for all the pupils across the country is being paid for by the government. It's done. We told you that we shall empower citizens by giving them grants. It's being done, my brother. We told you that this social cash transfer you are failing to administer because of corruption and the UK has withdrawn. When you give us an opportunity, we shall negotiate and show prudence in the management of public resources. And we've managed to claim back the social cash transfer funding from the UK. We also told you that we shall engage Europe and demonstrate by running the country and the budget properly, by sealing in the loopholes. And we've managed. The EU is back. They have resumed financing Zambia's budget. Then we also promised you that you students, because some people are hypocritical, they claim they care for you, but they took away meal allowances. Then they are saying, the cost of living is high, what are you going to eat? They forgot that by taking away meal allowances, they were taking away food. UPND promised, it was a message that you had, resonating with the students. When you give us an opportunity, we shall review the meal allowances and reinstate it. My brother, it is back and extended to 7 more universities. Our friends said it was not sustainable because they had no clue on where to get the money from. HH said, we know where to get the money. It's about managing the money prudently. Don't you ask yourself where he has gotten the money to recruit more than 42,000 teachers in 2 years? As Diamond TV and management, have you ever thought that there is no country in Africa which has recruited that number? Have you checked around? Have you also realized that you are the only one in Southern Africa with such numbers. Have you gone on the internet to check that not even one single European country has such a number of recruited youths in the education sector alone? Have you ever thought about that achievement? Have you thought about it as an economic issue? Because over 42,000 youths now have an income to feed their families. Did you realize that the entire SADC region, only your country has managed to recruit more than 14,000 health workers amid all these economic crises in the world? Are you aware, my brother, that in Southern Africa, right now, you are the only ones who are training by constituency, your own people, for free in carpentry, metal fabrication, aquaculture, general agriculture, for free in resource centers? Are you also aware, my brother? Are you aware? I don't want to talk about ZNS and the training of some countries.
We need to conclude. There's two more issues.
Yeah.
We need to conclude.
Now, let me get to your politician. It will be suicidal to get into 2026. If you've seen, our conversation is centered on very key issues that we can point at that this has been done. Now, on the list, there are things that have not been done yet. Not that they've not been done. Number one, to sort out trade shading for good. But we are already seeing solutions coming in. Because unless we have a problem, the solution right now lies in alternative source of energy. And government has responded and signed. It will be very painful to experience it, this darkness.
It will obviously go until 2026.
It will be
These
painful.
are long-term projects.
Now, yeah, the one for rooftops, it is responding instantly. It is both short-term and long-term. The moment your household is disconnected, then you will not be interrupted. And then the other short-term measure that government put in place, you are aware that they are putting generators. I think at Superior they've already put a generator.
Are there incentives for SMEs?
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. I don't want again to announce something that has not been announced by my colleague, the minister. But the SMEs government is putting in place something. I think they'll be announcing anytime. So I don't want to talk about details because obviously we are well coordinated. Okay? It is as though you peeped through something, unless you're telling me you didn't pick information somewhere. Now, so the point I'm trying to drive home is that I'm glad that we did not want to political who should win and who should win. We went straight to the issues. Now let me talk about politics. Just out there saying no, it will be suicidal to go with. I wanted to say that there are issues that are remaining on the agenda. The rest of the things we promised are done. We said we will never close any media. Not a single media has been closed. You can now. We are now free.
You're threatening with the houses.
You are now free to feature wherever you want. There are no love letters from the IBA every time. Ask the CEO, my brother COSTA. He will tell you how difficult it was at that time to thrive and feature wherever you wanted. You were asking for editorial policies every now and then to check how many people you visited, you featured in a month, and where they're coming from. So, on the media freedom, we are safe. Access to information, signed. It's history. Okay? And so it's a successful report we can write about ourselves. The next point that I want to deal with.
You don't think it's political suicide to go in an election with the current economic challenges?
So now, the issues that are which are not yet dealt with, we have number one, the cost of basic necessities, which I mentioned earlier, what is taking it up. Number one, the fact that there is very little that is being produced in Zambia due to drought. It raises the price of minimum. Secondly, the fact that Kwacha lost value because economic activities in the area of traditional exports went down because KCM was liquidated, which is the second biggest mine. The third biggest mine, Mopani, went down. So copper production went down. So now the idea of revamping the mining sector is to take back the copper production up so that when we export more, we can attract more forex to stabilize the currency. So a solution has been found to that. It is a process that takes time, but it will be actualized. The next thing that is remaining on the agenda is what you generally call the cost of living. Okay? Which in one area it is being resolved by ensuring that we get back the jobs. Because remember, the report was conducted before most of these guys got back the jobs, even in the mines. If more than 9,000 families lose jobs, the cost of living goes high.
As we conclude, really, Mr. Simuwe, I know we would have touched a number of things which we've not touched on, but there seems to be concern. Even those that loved you are now expressing concern. The UN in 2022, they released a report that showed, that the democratic space is shrinking. And now the recent one that was released on the 29th of August, indicating, of the same, the shrinking democratic space. But also locally here, we've seen a number of organizations producing similar reports. The church, the pastoral letter expressed, disappointment in how the democratic space is shrinking. We saw a report by Chapter 1 Foundation. The Law Association of Zambia also released a report surrounding how the democratic space has been shrinking under the leadership of President Hakainde Hichilema. What is happening? You spoke against these things.
Now, I've just talked about the media, okay? Because under the UN Charter, media freedom is a right. I've told you that we promised you no media house shall be closed and none has been closed. That's number one. Two, we made sure that evil act, would-be act which was about to be enacted to regulate all of you was history, and we have succeeded with many cooperating partners, including media owners like my brother COSTA. Okay? Then thirdly, we promised you that citizens, there will be no extrajudicial killings, okay, arising from political assemblies. And I think we should be congratulated for the record. We also promised you, right now as we are speaking, my brother, in case you don't know, over 80% of the airspace on media houses has been taken up by the opposition. They would never allow that at their time. Only now. Only now. Today, they are going to campaign and lose. Even when they say...
So these international agencies are dreaming?
No, I'm coming. Let me deal with the specifics now. Let me start with Laz. Laz has not quoted a single activity. I expected Laz to research widely. You get the point? If you look at their letter, it is a sweeping statement. It has no grain of information where they will give us a specific matter of a person who was arbitrarily arrested, because they know. The Laz must have, the Laz I know, then would give us incidences. For example, this one was arrested and this is what happened. The process was not followed in the court. We are coming, my brother, from a background in which lawyers were going with guns in the courtroom. I was in the chamber during the presidential petition.
Even the pastoral letter lied?
No, I'm coming to that. I'm first dealing with Laz. You must cite an example. Don't issue statements like politicians. Cite examples. In other words, you must be factual. Me, myself being a researcher.
There's many examples that we cite.
Myself,
even just
no,
now.
I'm speaking. Now you've asked.
There's a gentleman, a Gen Z, who was arrested.
Wait a minute.
For 12 days now.
Wait a minute.
Detention without
you are citing a Laz letter, so I'm speaking to it and I'm responding. I'm saying, when you write a letter of that nature, give us instances. You know why they can't do that? Because some people that are engaged in certain illegal activities are in court. So Laz, in some cases, is unable to cite it because you cannot discuss a matter which is in court. Then secondly, they are unable to cite it, meaning the letter is premature. You get it? Every lawyer knows that. That's why they are unable. Most of these who have been, for example, let me go to the UN. The UN Human Rights High Commissioner, when they produce their own write-up, when you click it, it takes you straight to the UN page. Then it will ask you to write the full story. And there will be research works that were conducted. Go on the blog. For all those, you're going to find Gaza, you're going to find Ethiopia, you're going to find all those countries. On their website, you'll not find Zambia. Then they are referring to it as experts. It is not themselves that conducted that. It is not the UN themselves. UN has lawyers. They disowned the document. It's not themselves. They find a document, someone posts it. When you write a write-up, then you simply mention me. A person who will click, you think... Wait a minute.
This is on the website of the UN. I'm actually on the website of the UN.
Wait a minute.
And I've clicked Zambia. This is the report.
No, so I'm telling you that. I know the story that you're referring to. I'm saying it's not a UN who did that. They are referring to experts who are not mentioned.
But what about the report they did in 2022?
No,
which indicated extrajudicial killing under UPND?
Wait a minute. You needed to read it so that we are dealing with those issues. So you've raised the first issue, and I'm telling you now that it is not the UN. They are making reference to other people who published it. And I don't want to mention a politician in Zambia who wrote that, because in the first place, it was unprofessionally done. When you say people are being arrested for theft, it means you are telling the truth. That's how it's supposed to be. If a person has been to be arrested, my brother, he must be arrested for theft. People are being...
Which report?
Look at this. Look at this.
I read the report. There's no...
Now listen, wait. If people are being arrested for sedition, for seditious practices. That is the correct context in terms of legalese. You are only arrested for an offense. Sedition in Zambia is an offense, my brother. Espionage. If you are being arrested for espionage, you can't cite it as a human rights violation. Espionage, even in the UK, is an offense. Just recently, a week ago, someone was sentenced to prison for sedition in the USA. It's an offense. In the Penal Code, Cap 87 of the laws of Zambia, those offenses that are being referred to do not amount to violation of human rights. Lastly, in law, in the Constitution, there's what we call derogations. Derogations are an exception that you have freedom when you have been, for example, arrested or you have an ailment and you've been quarantined. So when a person is arrested for sedition, there is no violation of human rights. That's what the Constitution says. There is no violation of laws of human rights when derogations come in, when you break the law on sedition.
Has power got into your head that you can't see some of these things that are happening?
It depends on where you stand when you ask that question. In the first place, instead of us going to the head, we must confront the debate. Let me also wind up by indicating that.
In conclusion,
we are talking about the pastoral letter. You know why I want to restrain myself, but I responded. Those that will write are politically inclined. Bishop Banda, they sit down, they start crafting letters and taking them, and so we know where they stand and what they are pushing for. You had this person who calls himself a senior citizen, sits with the priest, then they start drafting things.
What is Elect Banda pushing for?
This is what I'm telling you.
What is he pushing for?
It's Edgar Lungu. Those are love beds. It's a well-known fact. It's on record. Those are Edgar Lungu's peers. You get the point? So, it is indisputable, and I'm putting it on record.
We need to close now.
I must close by indicating that citizens should not lose trust in the head of state. For if you want to politic, we want to tell you that there is no party currently. Just like former PS Kasolo said, no party currently can beat UPND. In the first place, which leader? Because if you talk about PF, it is no longer the state in which it was. People have run away. They have left. UPND. Some of them are in UPND.
UPND Consultant.
You go to, my brother, you go to Socialist Party. Do you know the person who wants to defect now? It's Fred Membe himself. So now I'm waiting for my brother Antonio Mourinho Mwanza and Brian Aponda. We don't want their skills politically to be wasted.
UPND
they are my
Consultant.
Friends. They are intelligent.
UPND Consultant Max Simuwe, thank you so much for making time to appear on COSTA tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. See you again Sunday at exactly 21:15. Good night.
COSTA was brought to you by FQM Trident Limited, a subsidiary of First Quantum Minerals Limited.